Hello, everyone. It's the second last session of the conference, so welcome. We have a really exciting session for you today. So welcome to Communications for the Win, Accelerating the Circular Economy Through Education and Awareness Building. My name is Caitlin Perry, and I lead education and engagement programming at the Circular Innovation Council. We're a national organization, and we're one of the host organizations of the summit. In this 1-hour session, you'll be hearing from myself and the panelists here on this stage. We'll be sharing success stories of education and engagement campaigns that have driven consumer participation of circular business models. So each speaker will be presenting a quick presentation about themselves and about their campaigns that they've done. If you have any questions, feel free to, as people are talking, feel free to put them in the swap card app, and as the presentations are going on, and we will address them during the panel. And then my colleague Audrey at the front here will be going through the Q&A and helping me moderate with that. So I'll let the speakers introduce themselves. Their headshots and names and organizations are up on the screen. But before we kind of start things, I wanted to kick things off about talking about why we're doing this session and why education and communications is so critical for advancing circular economy. So information is a key enabler of the circular economy, as many of you know and have been learning in your sessions over the last 2 days. And everyone has a role to play. Every business, every government has a role to play to advancing the circular economy. And we need the information, resources, tools, and communications to help motivate behavior change and encourage participation of circular business models. So education and raising awareness has been an awareness of circular economy concepts has been a key pillar of Circular Innovation Council's work for decades. Since 2001, we have operated Canada's national public awareness campaign about waste reduction and circular economy. We've created school campaigns, education programs, contests that have encouraged reuse and recycling of materials like plastics and textiles. We've delivered many different workshops and educational sessions for businesses and workplaces, done a lot of educational resources and toolkits for various different audiences. So it's something that's been a core part of our work, our organization's work over the last few decades. And while we have done a lot of work in this space, I wanted to focus today's example on Circular Economy Month, which many of you have probably heard about before. You may remember it as Waste Reduction Week, so it's a national public awareness campaign that we've been activating every year since every October since 2001. And it was, of course, it was previously Waste Reduction Week, and then we rebranded it in 2022 and expanded the programs, expanded it from a week to a month, because the circular economy is obviously much more than just educating about it. Was needed for a whole month, not just 1 week. And we wanted to expand the messaging beyond just waste reduction and we wanted to talk more about the benefits, the environmental, social, and economic benefits of circular economy. And the purpose of the campaign is to really educate all Canadians, governments, community groups, individuals, schools, to learn about the circular economy, how to take action, and most importantly, celebrate their efforts. And we really provide the tools and resources for these audiences to do that. So the Waste Reduction Week campaign started many years ago, and it was really focused on community events, mainly in recycling drives and stuff like that. And then it's really, over the years, grown into a huge social media online campaign. It trends on social media every October, as you've probably seen it, with a suite of online resources, educational videos that we create, take action pledges, local events across the country like repair cafes, swaps, webinars, curbside giveaways hosted by municipalities, and so much more. And we always give our program every year a content theme. And this year's theme will be around social and economic benefits of circularity, because that's what we're finding resonates with Canadians most right now, the issues of affordability and how circularity can save Canadians money and, of course, build stronger communities and overall make life more affordable. So because of the audience here today, many people from different businesses and organizations across the country, I wanted to focus this slide on how your organization can use Circular Economy Month as a program to promote your success, promote the circular business models that your company offers, and using it as a way to promote these models and services to your customers. And of course, use it as a marketing tactic. It's a really good opportunity and advertising tactic that you can use to promote your circular services. It's a great way to educate internally to your staff and suppliers, vendors, and employees, as well as your customers. And use the campaign really as a touch point to make any big announcements and really show off what you're doing in the circularity space, and really recognizing that it doesn't have to just be big changes. It's every change and all progress is really worth celebrating, and that's really part of the message is what we're trying to promote in this campaign. And as you can see on the slide there's a really quickly moving graphic there that's just some screenshots of, and you might see your organization listed there, some of highlights of some of the content that we've seen organizations been posting through for Circular Economy Month over the years. So it's a great mix of promoting things that corporate sustainability efforts, events that municipalities are running, promotion and education campaigns, and all that and really cool graphics and stuff that are out there. So, and of course, you also see our program sponsors who are on that slide as well, who support the development and implementation of the program. So before we move on to the panel, I have a quick audience poll to see what people know about the campaign and about communicating circular economy. So if you want to pull out your Swap Card app and go to the interactive live session here. The first question is, does your organization participate in awareness campaigns like Circular Economy Month? And the options are yes, not yet, or unsure. Just want to see who already kind of knows about the campaign and who's already taking part. And then I think both of the questions the answers will come up after, but the second question, what do you think is the most important things to consider when communicating circular economy business models? Oh, okay, so the first one. So everyone knows about circular economy, that's great. Or participates already, so thanks so much for your participation. And I see some answers still coming in there. And then the next one, we can move on to the next question. Most important thing to consider when communicating circular business models. So communicating the cost savings seems to be the most thing that people think is the most important. And that's, again, what we'll be talking about a lot of our educational materials this year for the campaign. And keeping, of course, messaging simple and promoting the environmental benefits and the convenience, and creating creative marketing assets are a huge thing to consider as well. So thanks everyone for taking that poll. So that is it for me. I will now pass it over to Lori, who is going to introduce herself and talk a bit about what ABCRC is doing.
Thank you.
Oh, here.
Oh. Forward, back, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Caitlin, for that. And hi, everyone. Like Caitlin said, my name is Lori. I'm the Director of Sustainability and Stakeholder Relations for ABCRC. And I have spent the better part of a decade working in this space and driving consumer participation in Alberta's deposit return system. And as I was creating this slide deck, I realized something, that recycling and parenting have a lot in common. So quick backstory, I have a 17-year-old daughter. We are super close. I'm so proud of her. But as I was creating this slide deck, I was sitting at my kitchen island, and we had what I'm going to call one of our mother-daughter throwdowns. And so I took a deep breath. I came back to the slide deck and that I was creating on behavior change, and I thought to myself, parenting at this stage, well, it's basically behavior change in real time. You teach them, you set them up with good habits, and you give them the resources they need to succeed and hope they follow through without needing Starbucks as a bribe. And so it hit me that convincing people to recycle their beverage containers, it's a lot like trying to get your teenager to put their socks in the laundry, which, by the way, was not what the throwdown was about. But they know that they should do something. They even want to, but they still need a system that works and makes it worth their while. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about how communication and education can make the right thing the easy thing to do. So a little bit about ABCRC. We work on behalf of over 400 registered manufacturers and distributors. We manage the life cycle of the beverage containers from the point of collection, which is picked up from about 220 depot collection sites across Alberta, through to the processing, reintegration of those containers back into the circular economy. And so that means baling, shipping, tracking recovery, making sure cans and bottles just don't disappear into the bin, but they come back as usable materials, and ideally as new beverage containers. And Alberta is pretty good at this, if we don't say so ourselves. Last year, we recovered over 2 billion containers, billion, which translates to an 85% recovery rate. That's the highest in Canada. It's the second highest across North America. And that's according to Relief's Global Deposit Book. And so I put the link up there. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, I highly recommend it. It's deposit return data from across the entire world, and it's really, really interesting. But this is why Alberta's system works, because it's simple, it's accountable, and it's designed with the user in mind. But here's the thing. People aren't lazy. Well, most aren't anyway. None of us in this room are. We're wired for efficiency, and so if there's a low effort option, we're gonna take it. I'd like to know if that's a slide, because if it is, I'll take it, but if not, I'll probably do the elevator. It's not bad behavior, it's human behavior, it's human psychology, and so recycling is no different. If the process is confusing, inconvenient, or out of the way, even the most environmentally conscious person will skip it. None of us, again, in the room, but some. So the real trick then isn't convincing people to care. It's making the right choice the easy choice. And I put up there, we're not selling something, we're trying to get someone to do something. And it's actually why I love my job, it's why I love parenting too, because it's challenging and it makes it fun for me. And so when we see system design, convenience, and incentives come in, that's why Alberta's system has been so successful. This quote is one I just really love, so I thought I'd put it up while I emphasize and really hit this point home, because it ties everything together that we're talking about here. It's not just behavior change in theory, it's in practice. And when I thought about that, the shopping cart analogy made sense, so I threw that image up there too. But will someone walk the cart back to the corral or leave it in the middle of the parking lot? Well, it depends, right? Are they late? Is it raining? Are their kids crying? Is the cart return close by? And it's not really about whether people know the right thing to do. Most of them do. They know what's right. They're not going to leave it in the forest for no reason. It's about whether they've been given a system that makes it easy to do that and act on that knowledge and then form a habit around it. And so for us in Alberta, we've built that kind of system. It's clear, it's consistent and convenient, and That is a big reason why we're seeing such strong return rates and public participation. But having just a good system really is just the foundation. People also have to understand how the system works and why it matters, right? And so we talked a bit about this actually in the resource recovery session this morning. So I've had the benefit of already attending a lot of sessions, and I'm hearing a lot of like similar messages that clear, consistent, and well-targeted communication is what turns a good system into a successful one. And it's how we guide people toward action and help them feel good about doing the right thing. So how do we actually do that? How do we actually shift behavior change? Well, we've learned that real behavior change isn't about lecturing, it's about nudging. It's meeting people where they're at, it's finding out what makes them tick, it's finding out what they care about, and then teaching them along the way with well-crafted videos and educational material. We don't just guess either. We use data-driven decision-making, and so it's grounded in consumer studies, in market research, and that way we better understand where people are at, and we guide them in the right direction. And that's really the heart of the approach. We make it make sense to them. So there's I've got about 6 things up there. I'm not gonna go through them all because of time, but I called it a toolbox, but really there's incentives, and the deposit system is clear and it's motivating. It's not Starbucks, but it's a deposit. It's 10 cents or 25 cents. In education, we show people where the containers go after they return them. Aluminum cans, well, they're back on the shelf in 6 to 8 weeks. PET is turned back into food-grade resin. And then the generational approach, we touched on this in a couple of sessions too. We teach school kids so that they're bringing habits home and they're teaching their parents as well. And communication is not one size fits all. Our awareness and advertising work is tailored by the audience. So we use research, return data, and consumer insights to shape messages that actually work. For some, it's about environmental responsibility, but for others, it's about convenience or cost savings or community. And so we build campaigns that reflect those differences, and that's really how we reach more people and more effectively. It's targeted, personalized, and it's rooted in real-world behavior. So where do we go from here? Well, what I really wanted everyone to take away from this slide is collaboration, and we've heard a lot of that over this entire conference: collaboration, harmonization. It's a common theme. So if we keep building, we keep educating and utilizing new techniques to reach the consumers, because the communication isn't just the marketing, it's part of the infrastructure. And so we need clear public messaging, of course, consistency across education and education across sectors. It's not just the beverage container sector, it's all of them. And collaboration across provinces. We collaborate with all the provinces across Canada to learn best practices and bring those back to our provinces so that we're increasing return rates coast to coast. And so this year, ABCRC turns 30, and we're using that milestone to drive change, doubling down on innovation, collaboration, and smarter communication to help Albertans return containers more often. I would love to continue the conversation, whether it's about recycling, education. If you have any parenting tips for teenagers, would love to hear about them. I have a lot of different studies too and great reads that I would love to share, so please be happy to reach out and connect. I'll be in the networking sections, and my contact information is up there. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. I'm so pleased to be here today to talk to you all about how creativity actually has the power to make sustainability and circularity accessible and unignorable. But first, hello, a big bonjour to everyone. Je m'appelle, mon nom est Geneviève Côté, and I'm a vice president at Edelman Canada. And what is Edelman, you might be wondering? We are the world's largest communication firm, specializing in earned media, brand strategy, and reputation management. We are the storytellers working behind the scenes to support, promote, and protect some of the world's largest and most influential brands. And for 25 years, we've been studying trust with the Edelman Trust Barometer, proving that it's not just a buzzword, but really the foundation of influence and action. Because here's the deal, data's really awesome. I've heard so many of you talk over the past couple of days about the importance of data, and yes, it is so important. But data on its own isn't enough to get people moving. Emotions are what drive us all. In fact, the 2025 Edelman Trust Barometer, released just this past March, suggests that when people feel that systems are broken or unfair, they tune out. But when brands actually tap into real emotions, frustration, urgency, empowerment, that's when things get interesting. And that's where Edelman comes in. That's where we capture attention, drive action, and build lasting trust. You're gonna hear me say the word trust a lot in the next 5 minutes because it really underpins everything we do at Edelman. We believe that trust drives action and action drives trust. If you'll allow me, we see it as its own little circular economy. I'm gonna share with you now a couple of stats from the most recent Edelman Trust Barometer, which suggests that 6 in 10 Canadians hold grievances against business, government, and the rich. They feel like the system is rigged. They think that business and government are actually out to get them. 6 in 10 Canadians believe this. But the good news is, Canadians also see business above any other entity as both competent and ethical. And what's more, they're demanding that business take action. They want businesses to step up and resolve grievances, leaving space for businesses like yours to solve real problems and affect real change. Now, when we talk about grievances, there's a sliding scale. Taxes fit on there somewhere, I'm sure. But how do taxes relate to circularity and sustainability? Imagine this. You're a Canadian trying to do your part for the planet by buying secondhand. It's eco-friendly, bonus, it's great on your wallet, and then bam, you're hit with a tax on something that was taxed once, maybe even twice before. Does that seem fair? No, of course it doesn't. It's confusing, it's frustrating, and worst of all, it erodes the trust in the very systems that are there to support sustainability and affordability. And that's why Edelman and IKEA Canada partnered to take this grievance, to take this injustice, and turn it into a national conversation. Because pardon our Swedish, we think that's some bleep. Got your attention, right? Good. That's the point. But SHT isn't just an acronym, a cheeky word that you might want to slide a vowel into. It's actually a bold Earn First campaign that made the issue of double taxation on secondhand goods relatable and unignorable. Instead of bogging Canadians down with complicated tax and secondhand economy jargon, we got straight to the point with SHT. And the results, well, they speak for themselves. I'm gonna share with you now a video so you can see firsthand the impressive campaign and outcome.
Canada is a global leader in sustainability, but Canadians are being punished for making sustainable choices because every time they buy a second-hand item, it gets taxed, even though it was already taxed the first time. That's paying tax on the same thing twice. IKEA, a leader in sustainability, wanted to end this double tax, now known as second-hand tax, or we gave Canadians back on all second-hand items. It's simple. HST 13%, SHT minus 13%, meaning our customers pay 0% tax. People went crazy.
We do not want to pay double the tax. Talk to your people.
Saying things like, they are doing more for us than the Canadian government ever has, and this is bananas. Thousands and thousands signed the petition. IKEA's CEO brought Canada's biggest brands together.
I feel very proud to say, I think that's so. SHT.
And they discussed putting an end to the double tax. The whole country was talking.
Canadians very happy with IKEA.
IKEA Canada's got a really neat initiative.
Calling out the Canadian government.
Then got real. IKEA delivered the message to the government, and they agreed to meet and talk about putting an end to the double tax for good.
Brilliant.
So, what can we... Thank you. What can we learn from SHT? What can we take away from it? First and foremost, we didn't just create a campaign. It wasn't just a moment in time. We created a movement. We made a widely hidden and unknown issue relatable and impossible to ignore. This gave Canadians something to really rally behind. We connected the dots between business, brand purpose, and real-world problems, increasing customer trust, not just in IKEA, but in the systems that they thought were broken. And we used creativity, I think you all got that, to break through and just cut through any of the noise that our customers were hearing to drive real interest in what we were actually saying and to ultimately drive political action. SHT isn't just a win for IKEA. I hope you see it as a blueprint for the future. It's a way of leading policy change, being really cheeky and maybe a little bit fringe, but all while winning customer trust. Edelman and IKEA prove that circularity isn't just about products, though super important. It can also be about engagement, behavioral change, and ultimately building that lasting trust. And finally, by taking grievances, taking distrust in the system, and flipping it on its head, we were able to make something feel so personal and urgent that people were compelled to act and to drive change. Thank you. Un gros merci.
That's me.
It's you.
Sweet. Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Diplock. I'm from the Thingery. The Thingery designs, installs, and services equipment lending libraries. We're based out of Vancouver, BC. And today I'm going to talk to you about how we're revolutionizing access to equipment. But quick audience engagement that's not app-based. Okay, put your hand up if you have a mending pile at home. So clothes you need to fix. Oh, heck yes. Okay. No, it's not over. Keep your hand. Now, keep your hand up if it's been there for a month. Okay, 2 months. 3 months. 4 months. Okay, still some lingerers. We'll stop at 4 months. Okay, now wait, keep your hand up 4 months. Keep your hand up if you have a sewing machine. Okay, so most people have a sewing machine. So, just acknowledging that a big part of why we don't maybe engage in repair is not always access to equipment, which might be a weird opening line for someone who lends equipment, but it's tied to this presentation. Okay, so a little bit about us. So we design, install, service equipment lending libraries. What you're looking at here is a site that we have in Vancouver that's in the off the lobby of a condominium. So we are currently rolling this product and service into high and medium residential towers. And we set this up, we work with a condo developer or housing provider, so that could be rentals, social housing, co-op housing, what have you. We establish these, we focus on 4 main types of equipment. We do event and entertainment, recreation equipment, tools, and then household appliances. And so what you're looking at here, this is at Collingwood Village. We have about 105 pieces of equipment that people can use. They register online. They come in, they check things out on an iPad, nobody's in there, and then we track their usage over time. So we have an inventory and membership management app. A lot of people in here will have heard of a tool library. This is kind of an evolution into a more localized version of that. And that's really important because what we're trying to do is change behavior, right? We're trying to change how people access equipment they need and in a way that's much more circular. And so when we think about what will drive people to participate over and over again, what we hear is convenience. And we actually break down convenience and say, well, what's convenient? How does that look like? And a lot of people say, it's really close to where I am. So this is in the bottom of someone's apartment building. It's got everything I need, and it's open kind of throughout the day. So we're open 14 hours a day, but in theory, we could be open for a lot longer because it's self-service. So When we do kind of start to make those changes in behavior, the impact of that is that people are able to participate and access things in a way they wouldn't have been able to. They're able to, next slide. They're able to participate and go and set up things. This is just someone kind of setting up a little dinner party in the park in a way that they might not have been able to. When they use the Thingery, they get to save space. They get to lower their ecological footprint if they would have gone to purchase something. They get to save money. And often, actually, what we understand is they get to access equipment they wouldn't have otherwise been able to. So when we ask people, hey, would you have been able to use this? We have about 40% say, I wouldn't have accessed it at all. So what we're working with is actually a very empowering, inclusive model where we're enabling people to kind of get out and improve their quality of life or participate in things they wouldn't have been able to without what we're doing. Beyond that, when we think about increasing participation, when we were talking about the sewing machine, it's often access to equipment is not necessarily empower people to use it or empower people to participate in acts of repair. They often need some educational workshops or peer-to-peer support to do that. And so we know that they need to go hand in hand if people want to be kind of active and engaged in this circular initiative. And so to do that, last December, we ran a garment repair workshop. It was a small workshop. There was 10 people. Every single person walked away having repaired a garment. And people were stoked. Like, I don't know. I mean, you guys know. When you finally do it, you're into it. You want to go. These small acts of repair, they're encouraging. They reignite this kind of passion to go and do things, to engage in new projects. And so this is a really big piece of what we're trying to do now, is making sure that equipment lending goes hand in hand with educational workshops and peer-to-peer. And we're exploring peer-to-peer connections, where you can imagine there's people in your building that might be really great at mending, and we need to connect those people and empower them to participate. So what's next for us? We're continuing to put in proposals for new builds in residential complexes and towers. We're also exploring partnerships with more community groups, so thinking about neighborhood houses, community centers, public libraries, and utilizing space in those buildings, giving access to equipment through our equipment lending library. And oh yeah, okay. We've been working with some students to kind of hone in on our impact measurement, and that's been integrate that into some of the inventory and membership management stuff that we use. This is a group of students. I do have a different sweater. It's like every photo of me today is this sweater. And that's been really great to see. We're not launching it yet, but when we do, we'll be able to articulate back to the user what their financial savings has been, which was interesting to see in the beginning of the poll that you ran, was financial savings of participating in the circular economy, space save, CO2, and solid waste diversion that has happened because they participated. But we also ask people and measure, are we giving access? People wouldn't have ever participated, and so we can't count that as an offset, right? And so that's something we're working on. And then this is a plastic sheet press from Precious Plastics. We're more and more engaging with potential sites that want to be exterior or external, and plywood does not work outside. And so we're moving into piloting with some recycled plastic sheets for our build, which is a small tweak to a CNC machine. You know, put a new bit in and change the depth, and it's kind of the same file we get to use. So that's how we work, and we're evolving our storage and locker system, like the way that we store and hold items. It's a very modular concept. It's getting more modular so we can fit into these little spaces in existing builds, and also planning future builds, which is, it's a lot easier, obviously, to plan a future build. That's it. Thank you, guys.
you. Hi, everyone. Really nice to meet you all today. My name is Amisha Hira. I'm from Visa. I'm based in London, which you can probably tell from my accent. Who ordered the snow, by the way, please? That wasn't part of the plan. But I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about the Recommerce Behavioral Insights Lab that we launched with Visa. So my team, I'm part of the global social impact and sustainability team that we have at Visa, and I am a global sustainability solutions director. My role in the team is to commercialize our sustainability solutions for Visa's non-banking clients primarily. So we have a team that looks at the banking clients. But I'm really focused on verticals like retail, travel, electrification as well. And re-commerce is a really big part of what we do in the retail vertical within my team. I have to put this slide up, otherwise my legal team will have a go at me. So you can all say you've seen it if you get asked. So Visa, so I'm going to guess that most, if not everyone in this room has heard of Visa, and you know who Visa are. You've probably got one of our cards in your physical or your digital wallet. But I do want to level set a little bit about what Visa does. I've had a couple of conversations over the last 2 days with some of you, and contrary to popular belief, Visa is not a credit card company. We are a global payments network, a world leader in digital payments, who essentially facilitate money movement between people, between consumers like us, between businesses, between governments, between financial institutions. And we really sit at the center of the payments ecosystem, and we have quite a unique position in that way, given we kind of cut across everything and everyone. I often also get asked, why is Visa in the sustainability space, like beyond greening your data centers and doing your in-house operations and things like that? Why are you here? And I think the numbers on this slide really, we should flip that question around to say, why shouldn't we be, or why wouldn't we be? We cut across 200 countries and territories. We move that money. We have a global reach. And really, if you think about, society today, you can't function without money movement. And the circular economy is a massive part of that. And what we're trying to do is move that money movement as much as we can from the linear economy to the circular economy. So that's why I'm here today. Just super quickly about Visa and what we're doing. So we, as I mentioned, we've done quite a lot of work on our in-house, greening our data centers and all of that kind of stuff. But we've taken a slightly more holistic approach in that we're also really committed to driving sustainable commerce. And the lab that I'm going to be talking about with a couple of other things kind of really will, I hope you'll all come away from this and think of Visa in a different way, and it will open up some conversations in that sense for you all. So this is a little bit of a pitch, but also just to kind of open your eyes a little bit more to the kinds of things that we do in the sustainability space with our clients. So we have a whole suite of products and services that we make available to our banking and non-banking clients, and the types of things that we can help with. Visa sits on a very, very rich data set. We've talked about data a lot over the course of the last couple of days, but we can use our data. We've built our own index to help clients identify their customers that are more sustainably minded, and how you can engage with them and target them with campaigns that are driven or based on sustainability. We also have the ability to help with carbon reporting, so meeting regulatory requirements around that. We also have in-house expertise that helps clients build out sustainability strategies, roadmaps, product value propositions that are very much grounded in the circular economy as well. And we also I've spoken to a few of you about Visa Direct and how we're leveraging payments as a way to drive more circular behaviors. So I've used the reverse vending, the deposit return scheme example quite a lot. And actually, Laurie, this might resonate with you, where we've tried to digitize the payments, the payouts for that using some of our products, where instead of receiving cash or store vouchers, you would actually get that payment back onto your card when you return a reusable coffee cup or a bottle. So if any of those pique your interest, do
do reach out, do come and find me. Very happy to have a chat about that. But for the purposes of today, I'm going to talk about the Recommerce Behavioral Insights Lab. And jump into a case study that we've done with them to show you the effectiveness of it. So the lab was launched in 2021 and is a collaboration between Visa, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, who I'm sure most, if not all of you, are familiar with. We had John Quill earlier this morning delivering a keynote, the CEO for EMF, and Mindworks, who are a global behavioral insights agency. And what we're trying to do with that is the three of us have come together so that we can leverage each organization's expertise to optimize the effectiveness of the lab. And the aim of the lab is to really to identify and test really simple behavioral hacks that will drive consumer demand for things like repair, for resale, for rental, and everything that kind of fits in the circular economy space. Just a couple of principles I want to call out that underpin the lab. So everything is open source. So all the experiments that we run with our brands are open source. We share everything that we've learned, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's really to help businesses learn from all of that and take the best practice and implement that in what they might want to do with some of that. Everything is behavioral science-based, so Mindworks help us on that front, and we use the MindSpace framework to identify which behavioral forces will, drive that change in the target groups that we work with. And also, everything is based in the real world, so you can either run the experiments in physical store locations or in the online world or on an app, and it's all done with real customers as well. So I'll jump into what we did with COS. So for those of you who aren't familiar with COS, they are a fashion brand, part of the wider H&M group. And they are they wanted to attract a new segment of customer. They wanted to basically tap into Gen Z. And if you're familiar with COS, it's not typically, I would say, a Gen Z brand. I hope I'm not offending anyone by saying that. But they wanted to kind of get a slice of the pie that Vinted and Diplock and companies like that were doing, where they were making money off the secondhand sales. So they wanted to attract this new segment of customer to them. So they came to us and we kind of sat down with them and we identified that Gen Z are typically motivated by three mind states: value, status, and community. And we believe that introducing an behavioral intervention through ad messaging would drive more traffic to the COS site, which for Gen Z, that would then encourage them to buy from them. So we designed 3 adverts. So we had the control, and then we had the 3 adverts for value, status, and community. They all look the same. The adverts all look the same visually, colors, etc. All that we changed was the messaging on them. So I don't know if you can see how big that is, but value was secure your next forever piece, status was uncover coveted pieces, and community was join the resale revolution today. So we ran those ads on TikTok, and they were targeted at 18 to 24-year-olds in 2 markets, in Germany and in the UK. And what we found at the end of the experiment was that there was just over a 21% uplift in click-through rates for the community variation compared to the control, which COS were really pleased about, because I think that was it's a very clear message that there is this community behavioral intervention that they could include if they wanted to implement this at scale. And we also found that in between the 2 markets, that the UK was a more stronger candidate for resale, given the higher average click-through rate that we had there too. So all of that to say that this is just one example of the experiment that we ran with them, and our hypothesis was essentially proved true that including this intervention did drive more click-through from the control. And we've also done experiments with Selfridges in the UK, luxury retailer some of you may know of, on a refill initiative. We've worked with the apparel brand Decathlon on a repair initiative. And we also worked with a company called Grover on encouraging renting tech rather than buying. So stuff that I guess all of you have touched on a little bit as well. But yeah, that's me. And I just wanted to say that if that interests any of you, then please do come and find me. You connect with me on Swapcard. And yeah, hope you'll find that interesting. And that's reframed Visa for you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your amazing presentations. So we have some time for some questions. I have a few prepared that I've been meaning to ask you guys, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So for Lori, how do you keep your communications campaigns and messaging fresh for a program that's been around for 30 years? How do you adapt to the changing demographic and social trends and everything like that?
That's a good question. Because if you think about it, that was back in 1995 when we all weren't carrying around smartphones either, right? So it was a very different time. And so I don't think it's necessarily about every single year coming up with the coolest and greatest creative or having the best media buys. That's important, but that's just kind of like marketing 101. I think it's kind of like what I referred to in the presentation deck of finding out what makes people tick and listening, and then honing in on that and finding your target audience, like Amisha was just talking about, and then kind of targeting towards that. And so, as an example, in Alberta, the last 2 years, we have seen record population growth. We were the highest growth in Canada. And we are expected to raise, I think it's like 2.6 million people by 2044. So what that tells me then is that we're gonna have a lot of migration to the province, and it means that we have a lot of newcomers who are either from out of province where there's different deposit systems, or they're from out of country where they don't even know about the deposit systems. And so you'll see a lot of our campaigns over the next year or two will be really targeted towards those new Albertans. And so it's just kind of keeping a pulse check on what's going on, and looking at your data to figure out who you should target that year.
And the education just doesn't stop. It's
continual. We've been doing it 30 years.
Geneviève, question I have for you. So since you launched the campaign with IKEA, obviously they're a major brand, and this was launched during Earth Week. How did you avoid any kind of greenwashing concerns that may have come up?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one we actually get a lot. Not always in the context of IKEA and SHT, but just for all the brands that we work to protect. And as protectors of these brands, we often counsel our clients not to do any performative actions. It can't just be about a moment in time. And so for SHT, yes, it launched during Earth Month because we knew Canadians were going to be more receptive to the messaging. They were thinking about circularity, they were thinking about sustainability, and it's okay to do that. It's okay to find moments in time where we know people are going to be more receptive. But it has to be a longer term commitment. And so SHT to date has been a year-long commitment, and IKEA, and with the support of Edelman, are still committed to changing this tax law. And so it's really engaging in those long-term conversations with the right people, public policy change makers, that really help us get away from that sort of greenwashing, and, as I've said before, really build that lasting trust.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And Chris, your business obviously benefits a lot of aspects to the local communities that you have your Thingeries located in. How do you communicate the benefits of your business? There's obviously social, economic, and environmental benefits of it. What do you think is kind of the most effective for that?
Yeah, good question. I think it depends on where we're trying to go, because we do have quite a kind of diverse, like a broad impact, and like who we're trying to partner with and who we're trying to work with. I think right now we're talking a lot about kind of the inclusivity, accessibility aspect of it, particularly as we're really acknowledging a lot of the housing providers that we're working with, like social housing providers, that aspect is super important. So we need to be able to kind of, when we go and do research and engage with our current members, that we're kind of gathering that data and talking about that piece. Mm-hmm. You know, there's that ebb and flow of funding, how often funders are kind of focused on what aspects. So we get to reprioritize kind of what's at the forefront.
But it seems to be like the participants of the community Thingery, they are more concerned about like the financial component of it usually, or?
Yeah, I mean, convenience is still the most important piece. Mm-hmm. So they've got to be able to, I think a part of what makes our model a lot more in demand is we have seen equipment lending initiatives that are maybe open 10 hours a week. Great concepts. I started one of them. They're fantastic, right? But you need to evolve, and I think that convenience piece is key, and we do kind of push that messaging. And then, the financial savings and the space savings are pretty important pieces for a lot of people. When surveys are surveys, sometimes people come back and they go like, "Oh, I'm in it fully for the waste savings," and that's not always the case. But there's multiple impacts. But a lot of when we talk to when we talk to kind of members, we do tend to lead with financial savings. Yeah.
So we have a few minutes left, and I wanted to open it up to the audience. So, Audrey, are you monitoring the Q&A? Are there any that we can?
Yeah, so there are a couple of questions here. The first one at the top, we've been hearing a lot about the need to degrowth, consume less, etc., to make circular economy and sustainability a success. How would you recommend we raise awareness and education about such values and mindset of our society?
Anyone want to take, Lori, or?
Sure, I'll take a crack at it. I would say, so it goes back to that piece where I was speaking in my presentation, make it make sense to them. I often joke, I feel like everybody should have a mandatory MRF tour. If they, so we don't have like with the wish cycling where you're just putting it in the recycling bin and hoping something happens to it. I think if they actually see it, and it just makes a little bit more sense. So that goes back to kind of making those really great educational videos and just teaching people about what happens. And I think that goes a long way. I also think it goes back to what I was saying about tapping into what people's values and mindset is and understanding where they're at and then nudging them in the right direction of where we want to get them.
Yeah, I agree with the hands-on education piece. Like I mentioned in my presentation about the events that we see during Circular Economy Month, a lot of them, repair cafes, that is such a hands-on way for people to learn about and learn these skills. So any opportunities like that are just really kind of focused on that hands-on engagement piece.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I agree with you both. I think what I would add is two things. One, it's maybe finding the barriers that people have to participating in these systems and trying to educate them, but in the most simple way. It was in your poll, SHT is an example of that as well. It's just how do we make all of these wonderful, complex things that we've talked about over the last 2 days, really simple for the majority of Canadians, because it is just, they have so much in their brains and they can't take it all in.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is I think it's sometimes we get caught up in the education piece and it's just doing it and making these things available for them. I think that would be my takeaway from that.
Any others, Audrey?
Yep. How can marketing help advance the circular economy in the B2B context?
I don't think it's dissimilar than what we were just talking about. Consumers, businesses, we're all humans at the end of the day, for now anyway. And we need to find the barriers, the things that make people tick, ways of actually breaking through with people to make them understand, again, these really complicated and sort of things. And to your point, Amisha, is also let's do the things and let people tag on to them as a way of making it so simple for them to participate.
Okay, next question. Did SHT get removed at the federal level? Is that process taking place?
Oh, I wish. We aren't there yet, but we have had some wonderful conversations, including with the Office of the Prime Minister. But that was a different Prime Minister. And so things have evolved within our government. And of course, I think when you all heard it, you had that aha moment. The government has had these moments as well. We're just continuing to have conversations with them as things change on their side. And we're making some great traction on the provincial levels. Interestingly enough, in provinces where SHT did not actually run. But what that signals to us is that there's a lot of appetite for this, and stay tuned.
Okay, and the last question, this was asked really early on. What is essential to develop a community-specific vision?
I think, like, so for that one, I don't know, I guess, but it just depends on what we mean by community specific. But if I'm looking at it from my lens in the deposit return, if you take like a hockey team, for instance, and so they do a lot of bottle drives. And so you just, again, I'm going back to, I sound like I'm repeating myself, but back to what makes them tick. So they want to make money for their hockey team. And so, you know, giving them the tools and resources in order to do that. And that particular community specific vision, I would say, is a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's tailored, right? You've got to tailor it. It's not a one size fits all, depending on, you know, who, what the community is and what they're interested. So I think sometimes it's yeah, you've got to take each thing in isolation to understand what it is that's going to drive them. This is kind of what we do at the lab. We try and understand what's going to drive this particular community. Like in the case of COS, it was, you know, Gen Z, and identifying the drivers for them and then building out what you need to do off the back of that. So it's, yeah, I would say kind of really understanding your community, what makes them tick, what makes them, you know, what's going to get them doing what you want them to do and implementing it based on that.
Mm-hmm.
I would add on just, yeah, engaging community for sure. I had an interesting interaction last week where I was emailing somebody about a bike repair kit, and he came back and he said, "Oh, can I teach a bike repair workshop?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." Like, so I think tapping into the potential and skills within the community, leveraging that back to be shared with the rest of the community, and kind of being that facilitator, kind of brings kind of an organic community-based vision, or at least programming for what you're doing, what activities are happening.
Great. And I just keep going, just because I see the question up on the screen again about the marketing in a B2B context. I like things like events like this and bringing everyone together, businesses to businesses, and things like webinars and workshops, engaging your suppliers, your vendors, your customers. I think that's really marketing as well, like promotional videos for these types of things. So I think that, like an example, like the magazine that we created for this summit. So things like that are really great examples of how of marketing tactics on a B2B context as well. Any final thoughts? We have 25 seconds left on the screen. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Just a big thank you to everybody. Yeah, this has been really enlightening for me as a communicator to learn about all the ins and outs of what circularity means and the work you're doing. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone.